This is Ruth and Angus of Yes We Can Peacebuilders. I am here today with the Executive Director, Angela Frank, of the Los Osos Cares Mutual Aid Organization here on the Central Coast of California. For those of you who don't live in this beautiful spot that we live in, I want to explain a little bit about our geographic location. Central Coast is in between Los Angeles in the south and San Francisco in the north, kind of smack in the middle, right on the water. And we here live on what we call the Bay. And we are in a bay, it's Estero Bay, but we're also in an inner bay, which is what we call Morro Bay, the Morro Bay. And there are three towns, and Los Osos is to the south of Morro Bay, which is in the middle of the bay, and then Cayucos is above us, a town above us. The difference between the three towns is significant in that Morro Bay is an incorporated city, and Los Osos and Cayucos are county towns, different forms of government. Morro Bay has a mayor and a city council and a city manager system, and the other two towns are under the county board of supervisors. That can make a difference sometimes when we get to things talking about things like fundraising, etc. But it's good for everyone to know. I know that there are some of the cities that this will be coming to are a whole lot larger than we are. I think Los Osos has something like maybe 15,000 people now, population. Would you say, Angela? Something like that?
I think that's about right.
Yeah. And Morro Bay is right around 10,000, maybe a little more, maybe 11. That I think fluctuates, and Cayucos always seems to be talked about as about 2,000 or 3,000 people. It's a tiny little beach town, not a lot of geographic location for them. And I think that's probably why. So you need to know that that's how we are set up. And what I'd like to go into right now, and Angela can do this with us, is give us the history of the Los Osos Cares Resource Center, if you will.
Okay. So in around 2016, Linda Quessenberry, who was a very prolific nonprofit organizer and very involved in the community, interested in helping people, she got together a community coalition of people in the community who wanted to help. And at the time, we were seeing a big increase in the number of unhoused folks that we have here on the coast. We hadn't really seen that here in this area prior. And so Linda gathered school board members, teachers, police officers, local clergy, and just other interested parties, and created this coalition of folks to kind of talk about what was going on in our area and how we could provide some help to these folks. And over time, they got together enough volunteers and some funding, a lot of community donations, and then eventually some really great grants from our local county government, and from the other grant-making foundations in the area. And Linda was able to start our resource center, where we primarily started out as a place for local people in need to come and get information about services that are available in the county. And there wasn't really anything like it here in the Estero Bay area. Now, at the time, people didn't know what was out there. And the resource center was set up with pamphlets and information. They created a resource list that listed all of the agencies, from Social Security to social services to all of the other local nonprofit organizations. And with that list, we're able to provide referrals to families and individuals in need. And Linda, created this great coalition, not just of people in Los Osos to get the resource center off the ground, but a coalition of local agencies in the county so that we can all be in contact and understand what all the agencies are doing and make sure that there's a continuum of care for people who have mental health challenges, physical disabilities, seniors, anybody that has low income,
Right.
anybody in need of services of any kind.
Yeah. Yeah. I have the resource list in front of me. This is one that you've revised as of January of this year. And it goes through everything: emergency services, clothing assistance, community and social services and organizations, disabled services, domestic violence resources, drug and alcohol, employment, education services. And I know a big deal is for the food distribution sites, which we can talk about a
Yes.
little bit, family and child advocacy, housing. Boy, that seems to be a
It's a
number
big
one,
one.
big one. Yeah.
Yeah.
Immigration. We have a laundry service. I'm going to talk to you about that. I don't know if we do still have that, but
Yeah.
I'd heard
Yeah, we
of
do.
that. Yeah. And obviously, you mentioned seniors, which is good. So it isn't just um, necessarily for the unhoused, but it began with the large contingency of unhoused people that
Right.
seem to have come into the area. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. So right now, where are we at? Let's explain how more than one organization collaborates with you. And I'm saying that because I know you took in, or I guess back when Linda was doing this, it wasn't just Los Osos Cares as a resource center. It also was the organization called Women Aid. So
Right.
talk to me a little bit about Women Aid and how that plays into what you do.
So the local chapter of Women Aid was run by Sandy Richardson here in Los Osos for quite a while,
Mhm.
and there were some difficulties because they didn't have a location, and we did, and
Yeah,
they didn't have the kind of volunteer pool that Los Osos Cares has. So at at one point, and I'm not sure exactly when, I apologize.
me either.
But we kind of absorbed them under our umbrella of Los Osos Cares. And
Which is a nonprofit, by the way, right? You mentioned
yes,
that.
we're a 501c3 nonprofit. And Women Aid as an organization is also, and there are chapters of Women Aid all throughout California and I think throughout the country.
I do
Um,
too. Yeah.
and so Women Aid started out as an organization that was just for helping women. But as uh, some political progress was made, they expanded. And
Mhm.
now we help anyone in need. People just need to have a referral from a social worker. And I don't mean a licensed clinical social worker necessarily, but somebody from another organization, say
Mhm.
social services or a hospital or
Oh,
another agency, even with
yeah,
our partner agencies in the community. If they've
right,
got a referral that they're already getting case management services, then we can help with small grants through Women
yeah,
Aid. And that's the main focus of Women Aid, kind of helping
right,
people who are especially in medical crises, um, who if they're in need of food or mobility aids, or if they're ill and they're unhoused, we try to help them with a hotel
mm,
room for a few days to help with their recovery. So that's kind of where
yeah.
the Women Aid focus lies now.
It isn't large sums of money.
No, we our grants are typically maxed at $300. Um,
Now,
and
is that
and some
per person or per year or what?
per person per year.
Per person.
Now, occasionally, depending on the circumstance, if I have a family, let's say a family of five that's in need, I'll go over that a little bit, especially if they, for instance, we had a family whose house burned down, and they needed a place to stay for a little while. And so
Right.
we helped with getting them a hotel room. And it was expensive because they needed conjoining rooms, adjoining, sorry.
Mhm.
And they had, a couple of teenagers. So it came out to be a little bit more than the 300, but it really is, at our discretion, depending on the need of the family or individual.
Right. So, like help with your utilities, you can't pay your
Yeah.
utility bill,
Yes,
things like that.
especially in the winter. If
Yeah.
somebody's gas or electric is going to be shut off, that's a big
Uh,
deal. That's a real, human rights issue. It's something that could
yes.
cause some serious health issues if a
Yeah.
person doesn't have those.
I don't think people think that here because we live in California and they think it's warm all the time. It gets plenty cold in this area.
It sure
As a matter of
does.
fact, I don't think it's all that warm today, and it's the end of July.
Right, right. We don't start getting warm weather until October.
Yeah, I ran
Yeah.
my heat. I do run my heat at least once every morning, early in the morning, as it's cold in the house.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
those are the things that come about. So that kind of explains how that gets into the picture. Over and above that, um, as we go through this, what would you say now, right now, is the most special need that's in this community? Um, and how are we answering that to some extent?
I think here in the local area and throughout California, housing is a really massive need. Rents are very, very high. There's not enough funding from HUD, Housing and Urban Development, to cover all of the people who are in need of, say, Section 8 or other HUD housing, where they pay 30% of their income. Um,
Yeah.
so a lot of folks, especially if they're on Social Security, if they're seniors and they only get $1,200 to $1,600 a month,
Right.
rent here, a one-bedroom apartment is $2,000 a month.
Yeah.
And so
It's insane.
without that
Yeah.
assistance, they're
Yeah.
um, they're in big trouble. And so that's something we're seeing a lot of. And while we provide small grants,
Hmm.
it's we always refer out to how agencies that help with housing, and there are
Yeah.
several local agencies. There's the Housing Authority of San Luis Obispo County. They help a lot of people. um,
Mhm.
there's a small nonprofit, People Self Help Housing, and they have housing and apartment complexes throughout the county, and they house lots and lots of people. Um, and let's see, there's also a couple of shelters that we work with, and a community action partnership of SLOW, CAPSLOW. They help, especially individuals who are unhoused. They have a shelter, and they also have rapid rehousing services where they help people get into housing, especially if they're, say, a family with children or
Right.
somebody who's medically fragile, that kind of thing. They also provide a lot of other services. So individuals who have lost their housing because they're struggling with mental illness or drug addiction,
Hmm.
they provide services to help with those things, to help get people housed. So
Hmm.
we work closely with those organizations, and we refer out to them, and they also refer folks to us if they're in need of a small grant.
Hmm.
Um, and
It's
uh,
kind of a tiding over in that respect, in that
yeah,
you can only do so much per person per year in that
right,
with something like that.
right.
So The Slow Housing Authority is a county thing, not necessarily, or maybe it's
They're
collaborating with a federal program.
they're a local nonprofit, but they are funded. They're housing vouchers. They manage Section 8 locally,
Oh,
and
right.
their Section 8 is funded by Housing and
Uh,
Urban Development
and that's
federally.
and that's federal, yes. So,
Yeah.
so I'm assuming, and I don't know enough about this myself because I haven't, done that kind of thing, but that there's a limit with the Section 8 type
Yes. The
of how
way
to get on
Section
that.
8 the way Section 8 works locally is they have a Section 8 waiting list that they open periodically, about once a year. And
Mm.
people who, if your income,
It has to
I
be
can't
at a
remember
certain.
exact. Yeah,
Yeah,
I'm not. I can't remember exactly what it is because it changes frequently
I
as the
know.
cost of living changes,
Right.
and
I was
wages.
surprised. Yeah, I was surprised to find out. I know that there's the federal poverty level. I don't exactly know what the number is. At one time, it was somewhere around $14,000 a year
Mhm.
for a person. Okay, God forbid that's for a
Yeah,
family. And then I
okay.
remember hearing something like $34,000 a year, up to $34,000 a year for certain people and or families that would fall into these programs because that's the limit. So you could be from zero to $34,000, and I don't know if that's only in the state of California or if that's federal, but it could be federal. And then you would necessarily be the person that could get on a list if the list was open. Boy, that's
Right.
complicated.
It is very complicated. In fact, it's even more complicated than that because each area has their own local housing authority, and
Okay.
that housing authority uses federal guidelines to determine the median wage for that area
Uh-huh.
and the rent standard for that area, and that's how they decide the income limits and the amount of rent that they'll help with. So yeah, it's a big undertaking, certainly, and I'm very grateful that we have it available in our community. And anybody who's local, Section 8 is going to have their list opening up here through Haslo next month in August.
So
So
what? Oh, so guide me through this. What does the person? Oh, here it is. It's July 22nd. They
right,
have to what, on August 1st get on the website to
I'm
sign.
to be honest, I'm not exactly sure if it's August 1st or if it's um, another day within August.
Oh,
But yes, they've got to get their name on the list. And typically, what Haslo does, because there's so many people in need and so many people in the area meet the income requirements,
hmm.
they will do a lottery. And so it's
Oh,
not first come, first served. It's, yeah, there's just so many people in need that
yeah.
it's very difficult for them to make decisions. And
Wow,
so
wow.
that's the way they do it. And
So they put
people,
your name in a hat and
yes,
get your name from
basically,
that. And there's a
yeah,
limit to how many they can have that they will open up for,
right,
which,
because they're
which we
federal
don't know.
funding.
Yeah,
Yeah,
which we don't
I
know.
don't know.
All right.
Yeah.
So just in case local people hopefully will be listening, etc., it's HASLO, and I believe you can just on any computer on the internet put those letters in, and you will connect
Yeah,
to their website where you could
that's
get
right.
more information. And I
Yes.
assume for people who don't live in this area that they also have something similar to this, and they should look into whatever that is and follow the directions again, because I'm
Yeah.
thinking if it opens up for us, that it opens up maybe everywhere in the country. I don't know if it's a federal thing, but we don't know yet.
Maybe. I'm not sure. I think
Yeah.
when they open the list, it's based on the availability of units in the area, or of funding for
For
units.
funding.
And
Yeah.
so
Okay.
it could. It could be nationally, but if you are interested and you're not in our area, take a look at hud.gov,
Right.
hud.gov, and they have links to all of the housing authorities throughout the country.
Yeah, that's perfect. That's great advice because I know that there will be people that'll get this in other parts of the country that would probably wonder.
Mhm.
So, you came into this first as a volunteer somewhere
Right,
along the line, and now
right.
you are the executive director of the whole organization.
Yeah.
Wow. Tell us when you started, what did you know about this when you started, and what attracted you, how you got involved, and then your little
Okay.
journey forward
Okay.
becoming director.
Um, so I started volunteering with Los Osos Cares last September of 2023. And when I came into it, I had worked with for nonprofits for quite some time. I mostly worked with nonprofits funded by regional centers. Regional centers were formed after kind of the federal dissolution of most um, insane asylums. I hate to say that term, but that's what they were
Oh,
called at the
yeah,
time.
yeah. I don't know what else you would call
These
them either. Yeah,
Right. I
yeah.
mean, now they call them institutions or state hospitals. That sort
But
of
that
is
wasn't
the
what it was
accepted
then.
term.
Right.
Right. And because what was happening that at the time was that a lot of people who had developmental disabilities were just being housed in these places, despite their very clear abilities to be
Mm,
contributing members of society. And so when they shut down all of those institutions, they created regional centers so that they could disperse funding and support organizations that were providing help to people with developmental disabilities. And so when I got my start in nonprofit organizations, I worked for Options here. It was called Options Neurobehavior Center back when I got my start, and that was in 2000.
remember that name. Yes, options.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah.
And now they go by Options Family of Services, and they've grown quite a bit.
Okay.
Um, but back then, when I got my start, I worked in a transitional living program, and it was so much fun. I was young and energetic, and we served a lot of people who were also young. A couple of folks who had debilitating head injuries that they were, working on recovering from and becoming more independent. And I had the privilege of taking people to physical therapy appointments
Oh,
and taking them to job interviews or doing even work training with them. And it
oh,
was it
good.
was just so much fun. I
I
loved
bet.
the work. I really liked the community engagement that comes with working for a nonprofit because there's just so many people
Mhm.
involved, so many people who have philanthropic kind of
Yeah.
desires. They want to help people.
Yeah, that's
Um,
a good point to bring up. Yeah.
yeah. And so I did that for a long time. I worked at Options, and then I worked for a small organization in Simi Valley for a while. And then I worked for Danville Services, and they were a for-profit organization that helped people with developmental disabilities and was funded by the regional center in Clark County, Nevada. Um, and so that was so fun. And so more recently, I went back to school during the pandemic. I had a kidney transplant quite a few
Whoa.
years ago, and I'd been very nervous about spending time in a classroom while I'm immunocompromised. Um,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, and so when the pandemic hit, my local community college had all online courses, and I was able to finish my associate's degree in transfer studies and then go to CSU Chico finish my bachelor's degree.
Same way, online.
Yeah,
Online.
all online. Yeah. And
It's
that,
amazing.
I've got to tell you, that Chico State program is so good. It's a social science
Really?
program, and the instructors are phenomenal. Um, I really felt like I got a top-notch education there.
Great. That's really good to hear because I think there's a lot of question about education now that has gone online so much. I drive by our local community college, Cuesta, which does a lot for so many
Mhm.
young people, coming out of high
Yeah.
school, etc. And it used to be the parking lots were jammed and they went on for miles, and now they're barely at all full at all. So I'm
Yeah.
assuming that there is an abundance of online programs, and apparently it's working. That's very,
Yeah.
very interesting. When you think about the infrastructure that's needed for a an educational, you know, place to be able to function. It's really
Yeah.
interesting that it's gone this way and it had to come about from, something as bad as a pandemic, but there's some good
Yes.
that came out of that. That's great.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I was very excited to find that I could finish my degree
Yeah.
online, and still be a mom and still do other stuff that I wanted to do, not worry about
Right.
the
And you still
cost
and
of
you still
gas.
work at the same time, right? You were still
I
working?
did, yeah. At the time I was doing online content creation.
Mhm.
It wasn't my strongest skill.
Yeah,
But
believe me, I understand. I'm actually looking for some of that right now myself. But yeah, I can
yeah,
understand
I'm
that.
I'm happy to be back in the nonprofit world.
Yeah, yeah.
So, and so
Are you happy now you're trying to help people again? It's
yes.
slightly different than what you were doing with the developmentally disabled. I mean, you're not driving people
Right.
to their job interviews, et cetera, et cetera. I know
Right.
sometimes it would be good if we were driving them to their job interviews.
It,
And
it
and
sure
that's
would.
something, yeah, really. That's something that used to come up, and in this area we had the Estero Bay Alliance for Care. And now I got involved with that all the way back. I think it was 2008, 2009, somewhere in there.
Mhm.
Again, because we were seeing so many homeless people in the area, and it met in Morro Bay, but all of the organizations would come to it. Over the years, many, many of the organizations joined in, and we ended up
Right.
primarily on Zoom. And I'm sorry to see that that is gone right now. Hopefully,
Yeah.
maybe we can resurrect it. But it's a really
Yes.
good way to keep in touch with each other, etc. And that did a lot of things with resources, coming up with resources for people and how we
Yeah.
could help them, etc. Um, One of the things that came out of that evac thing was feeding people, food being in,
Yes.
the Haslow hierarchy of needs. I mean, I always remember that from college.
Yeah.
Food, water, shelter. And I think, oddly enough, they now include not just food, water, and shelter, but they also include um, being safe from violence. I don't know
Right.
if you know that, but I think that
Yeah.
that is an interesting addition to our thing of needs. But food and shelter are right up there, and food being a big one.
Yeah.
So we do have some resources in this area, and these resources could be done anywhere, providing you have good volunteer service,
Absolutely.
because we
Yeah.
do the community dinners. So we have it here in Morro Bay on Monday evenings, and I know that Los Osos, again, the town that is south of us across the bay, has it on Wednesday evenings at their community center. So
Right.
what time is it? Where is it? What's the day? Tell me all the information.
So it's at the South Bay Community Center on Palisades Drive. I don't know the exact address,
No, I don't.
but it's
Yeah.
right across from the Los Osos Library. And it starts at 5 o'clock on Wednesday evenings. And we're there till 6. We make sure we've got enough food until we close down at 6. We get about 100 people
Every
each
Wednesday.
dinner every Wednesday, and usually we have enough food that some folks can take some home too, because we certainly have folks who are struggling more than
Hmm.
just one night a week. And so if they can
Right.
take something home for the next day or for their family or whatever they're in need of, that's a big help.
Yeah.
We also we partner with People Helping People, a local agency that has a contract with the food bank, and they do a food giveaway on Wednesday mornings at the community center as well. And so
Hmm.
when they have some leftover stuff, we will give away those groceries at our dinner too. So we often have some milk, some canned goods, sometimes some meat. Usually we've got plenty of vegetables and fruit. Um, and people can come just fill a bag or a couple of bags
Uh-huh.
with groceries too.
So when they come
Yeah.
to the dinner, they have the opportunity to get those things and be able to bring it home with them. And even for the homeless, there are items that they can still take. I know we
Yes.
used to say, please get the flip top tuna cans, which I personally like
Right.
anyway. They're easier to open
Yeah.
because you can literally eat tuna right out of the can. There are things you can
Of
eat right
course.
out of the can if they can get
Yeah.
the can open, that kind of thing. Something to think
That's right.
about when you're going to purchase food, if you're going to donate, to look for
Yes.
what's the easiest thing for everybody. And for seniors, it's
Hmm.
difficult. I can tell you, I have the hardest time opening things, you know,
Yeah.
because by this age, we are
Yeah.
rather arthritic. So that's something to really keep in mind.
Yeah.
We are, you have a laundry service thing I want to talk about too. Or do you? Tell me.
Yes, yes, we do. We have our Laundry Love program. We partner with St. Benedict's Episcopal Church in Los Osos. And at the Los Osos Laundromat, we, on the third Thursday of the month, we have staff there. They're volunteers. Everyone's volunteers,
Hmm.
and they keep quarters, and they bring laundry soap and bleach and dryer sheets, everything that a person could need to do laundry.
Hmm.
And in the morning we do from 11 to 1 for seniors, and then from I think 3 p.m. to 6 p.m. No, 4 p.m. to 7 p.m. Sorry, um, for anybody who needs to do laundry. Um, we definitely serve quite a few people who are unhoused who need to do their laundry, but
Right.
lots of folks just don't have laundry in their home. They don't have a washer and dryer, and laundry is such an essential piece of hygiene and self care, and maintaining our good health, even because our
Yeah.
laundry can kind of hold on to bacteria
Right.
and viruses, that kind of things. And so yeah,
And make you feel more like a human being. I
yes,
see
it
that.
makes you, yeah,
Yeah.
it makes you feel better.
If you think about the unhoused people,
Yes.
um, isn't it nicer to be have clean clothes? You know,
Yeah,
it's important.
absolutely.
Yeah.
It's very
So that's a
important.
really good service anybody can do. So the church and is funding that is Los Osos. How is that funded?
Los Osos Cares funds it,
It does.
but we partner with the church for volunteers.
Volunteers.
So
Okay.
yeah, yeah,
And I
and
wanted
they're
to bring
great,
back
big help.
back to the food thing. We didn't say who actually is doing the cooking. Um,
Oh, okay, yeah.
hmm, yeah.
We've got a lot of organizations that help us with the cooking. Um, we've several local churches, and unfortunately, I can't name them all. I don't know them well
Yeah.
enough, but they are absolutely fantastic. Um, Many of our meals are cooked in someone's home, and so the each group kind of has a recipe that they like, and so one group makes tamale pie fairly regularly.
Mm,
Another group makes a baked chicken and broccoli kind of dish. um, we've got some good cooks,
good
and
cooks.
yeah, and so
Way for
people
somebody that likes to
absolutely love
cook
it.
to participate. If you like to,
Yes.
you
Yeah,
could participate. I see that in Morro Bay, we
absolutely.
have this Morro Bay in Bloom for gardening. And the way he got people to do that was it was people that didn't have space. Maybe they're in an apartment or they don't have space in their little house or whatever to get out in the grounds and garden, but they love to garden. So he got them as
Yeah.
volunteers. that can be done also in relation to food with people
Yes.
really like to cook. You know,
Right.
I know I've gone to some of the meals and they're really good. You know, so
Yeah,
I've
they
never
are.
had a bad meal. That's for sure. Yeah,
Right. Yeah.
yeah,
Every time I go and volunteer, I always eat while I'm there
yeah.
because
Oh yeah,
it's
yeah,
great. Yeah.
yeah. And it's
Yeah.
also social. It's the social
Yes,
aspect of it. I think that in
it
relation to
is.
seniors, particularly, a lot of
Yeah.
people live alone in their house, and maybe it's the only night or the evening or afternoon or whatever that they get out amongst people other than going to the
True.
store, which isn't really what I call social. So being
Yeah.
no, it isn't. I'm sorry. I mean,
Yeah.
I talk to
No, it
people at the
is.
supermarket, but I mean, I prefer to sit at a
Yeah,
table eating a meal
sure.
and talking with people. So it's important. It's good for your
Yeah,
mental health. That's the important thing.
it
Where
is. Yeah.
where are we going? Where are we going with Los Osos Cares? Where are we going with the idea of a resource office? What do we see as our future? That's a hard one. I know
Well,
that's a tough question,
it
but
is. It's a tough question, but I do have um, some dreams for Los Osos Cares as executive director. I recently I finished all of the coursework to become a certified career services specialist. And
oh,
so I just have to take the exam,
what does
which
that
I'm
mean? What are you going to do? What does that do?
a career services specialist I'm certified to help people with their resume, to administer a few career interest assessments,
Uh huh.
um, and to help people kind of figure out, once they've done those assessments, determine how they match up with different careers.
Mm,
And I basically, kind of gives me access to all of the Bureau of Labor Statistics information, several different uh, national career services programs.
mm,
So a lot of resources, and having that certification, I can kind of help volunteers learn how to help individuals that we serve do their
sure.
job search, work on their resume, use our
Right.
computers in the office.
Yeah.
And so I'd really like to see that. I think we could get some decent funding for it. The closest career center that to us is all the way out off of Broad Street in San Luis Obispo, which, if you're not a local, it's about a half
Really.
an hour drive from here.
I didn't know we had one.
Yeah, yeah, it's a great, obviously it's a great career center,
Yeah.
and they get some federal and some state funding, and I know the Department of Rehabilitation helps with their funding. So it's absolutely fantastic. They have great staff. But if we could
Mm,
have a little spot for that in Los Osos,
that would be
where
very good.
people yeah, where people from Morro Bay, Cayucas, and Los Osos could come without
Um,
having to drive all that way, or
right.
take the bus all that way. I think it's an hour bus ride.
Oh,
Um,
easy. Yeah.
yeah,
Easy.
yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. And I would
So
say transportation is another one of our very large problems here in
it
that we
is.
don't
We're very car
have good
centric,
bus service. Yeah. We're not metropolitan enough to be having a
right?
good bus service. And I don't like to, downgrade the one we do have, but it just doesn't supply the needs. So
Mm,
yeah,
doesn't.
you have an office, a very nice, relatively good sized office
Yes,
in Los Osos in what used to be a school, and I would think
right.
that was probably a classroom at one time.
It was. Yes.
And you have computers there that
Hmm.
people could use, etc., with help, etc.
Yeah,
And there is that. I think around here, I could even see this helping young people who don't
absolutely.
know where they're going. You can go through high school and you don't have a clue, and you don't even
Hmm.
know you should go on into more education because you don't have any idea where you're going, you don't even know what you're interested in, how it relates to being in a career. So that's something that I don't
Yeah.
think that need is being served unless that place in San Luis does, and I never even heard of it. So I don't know, and I don't know what the
Yeah.
schools themselves do. I'm sure they try, but it's tough for a school to really help young people to know what to do next as far as the next
Right.
step in their life, etc. And out of
Yeah.
that, I would like to say, would you like to say anything about the new youth task force that we have formed?
I would love to. Ruth Ann and I are both working on this new youth task force. It's something that that Los Osos Cares has kind of worked on in the past without really getting a program off the ground. And so we, as a task force, have decided that we should complete a needs assessment first. And I had the privilege of meeting with some folks that work in our local schools recently, and they're with another program that we're partnering with, the Link Family Resource Center. They provide assistance and referrals and some small grants, financial assistance to families with children. And they have a wealth of information that they're going to share with us at our next task force meeting. And from there, we'll kind of determine where we want to go with our youth task force. What I think we'll get some good insight into unmet needs locally,
Yeah.
and so we can kind of go from there. The other piece of it is we're working on putting together a list of local resources for families that might not be able to afford extracurricular activities, um, but their children would like to do those things.
Yeah. Right.
So a resource I recently got to know their program director and their services is the Estero Bay Community Foundation, and they provide small grants to families
Hmm.
for just those things.
Like
Um,
after school things, etc. Yeah.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah, for everything from music to art
Mhm.
to sports to dance, everything
Right.
you can think of. And they work really closely with coaches and teachers in the community to make sure that these people know that that service is available, so that if they have a family that's, playing soccer but can't afford to keep going, the coach
Right.
can ask directly for this organization to help the family.
Yeah.
So I
Yeah.
think it's a really great
Yeah, I think
resource.
we have some really good opportunity to do this,
Yeah,
and it's been something we've been talking about for a couple of 2, 3 years now. I know
yeah,
EBAC, the Estero Bay Alliance for Care, talked about it. We did have some meetings, but it really never got going in the way we would have
mhm,
liked it to. And then I have a very strong desire to actually have the young people themselves involved in it.
yeah,
I like to see people that maybe they have a need be involved in solving their problems, okay?
yeah.
And starting that when they're young is it's my goal. That's what I try to work on. I feel the same way about the services that we are doing through organizations like Los Osos Cares with the unhoused and with the people in poverty, etc. I think people feel that that it's hopeless and there isn't anything they themselves can do other than coming in and asking for assistance. So
Yeah.
sometimes I think we're only putting a band-aid on things by just handing out a certain kind of assistance. Not that we would
Mhm.
begrudge them to have it. It's not that.
No, of course not.
Um, and I don't know your thoughts, and I don't even know what my thoughts are at this point as to how we would do that. But I think that that's really important. So I'm really
Mhm.
interested in your career thing because the big thing we talked about a lot is what comes first, housing or job, job or housing or job. And in
Yeah,
some of the programs, one of them was the car giveaway program, that Bill Todd does here, a local
yeah,
a mechanic. He owns an auto mechanic. He owns a service, and we've given away something like 45 cars that
yeah,
he has taken in and refurbished, etc. And we find out now that sometimes the person has found a job, they're
Mhm.
still more or less living almost on the ground in some cases,
Right.
but they're able to keep themselves together, and they have all they need is transportation to get to a job. So on top
Yeah.
of that, I think they need services to help them how to find a job, what they would be suited for, etc. I think that's an empty thing that we do need to fill. So I'm very happy to hear that you've got that
Mhm.
certification. That's a plus. Um,
Yeah, I'm
I'd like
excited
to see
about it.
I'd like to see less band-aid service and
Me
more,
too.
yeah, involvement.
Yeah.
And it's not an easy road,
No,
to
it's really not.
encourage people into self-help. I think we all suffer when it comes to the point where we have to find how are we going to get ourselves, you know, out of this mess in a way. We
Right,
both,
right.
and I
And
have
I,
both.
I,
Yeah, yeah,
I think
so,
it's especially difficult when a person has um they feel like they've they've hit bottom,
yeah,
whether it's with their mental health or
yeah,
addiction or
yeah.
even just losing a job.
Right.
It
And
can
a
be,
lot of it is just losing a job. I find that
yes,
there was a number of people that lost their housing because maybe they got laid off for a while. Now they may be
yes,
back to work, but the house is gone, and they and
right.
the kids are living in their car, that kind of thing. There's a lot of that. I think there's a lot of that across the country.
Yeah.
The idea that, things are better with the economy is, I shouldn't use this nasty word, but it's bullshit.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of areas of the country where people are really struggling. Um,
No.
Certainly there are parts of the economy that are improving. I think employment is good right now.
Mm,
Unemployment's pretty low. And the stagnation of wages is improving. But
yeah. But there are
there's
problems with that.
still,
Yeah,
yes, yes,
yeah. So you
inflation
raised,
well outpaces.
what did California raise the the income up to? I think it's $20 an hour, starting $20 an hour. So if you're working at the Burger King, what does the Burger King do? They turn around and they lay off a couple of people because they
Yep.
cannot afford to do the $20 an hour. So we haven't solved the problem. I mean, this I'm getting a little
Right.
political term. We're not supposed to be political,
Right.
but you can't
Yeah.
help it. It's part of it. It's part of the
Right.
system. It's way it is not working. That kind of thing. What else
Yeah.
do you want to tell the world uh, that's important to you and what you're doing, et cetera, right now?
Well, I think something that's really important right now is that Los Osos Cares is in a transitional period. It's very, very difficult for a nonprofit organization to go through losing its founder and getting a new executive director.
Yeah,
Something the very, very wise Caroline Hall, our board chair, shared with me recently was that often nonprofit organizations kind of coalesce around a charismatic individual. And I think that was very, very true of Linda.
yeah,
She really draws people in. She's got such a bright smile, such a
yeah.
wonderful personality.
She has a
Um,
way of snagging people that you will not believe. Yeah, yeah,
Absolutely. She just,
yeah,
everyone wants to come and help. She's inspirational. And, Linda and I have very different skill sets.
yeah,
She's just good at coalition building and uh, getting volunteers motivated. And I'm a little bit better at the administrative part of the job.
mhm,
Not that I'm not good at the other parts, but
yeah,
certainly I'll admit that she was better than I am at that part.
yeah, yeah.
And
She
so
has that's a talent. She really has a
it
talent.
is, she
I've been with
does.
her at certain things. We had a health fair once, and I was just going to come to see and participate, give support and that kind of. She had me hooked up with three different people within half an hour of three
Yep.
different organizations that she knew I should collaborate with. Da 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 da. Da. She's
Yep.
amazing. That's a
She is
talent.
amazing.
I don't have that much either. I maybe Wouldn't we love to have that talent? But
Oh my goodness,
it's
yes. To be
yeah,
that magnetic.
yeah. But the
Yeah.
administration is equally important, if not maybe more so, because the thing has to run right.
Right,
Yeah,
right. Yeah, there's just so many pieces to
yeah,
running a nonprofit. Um, and so anyway, my point in saying that is that because we're in this transitional period, um, we lost a few grants because the community knows Linda very, very well.
okay,
Um, they don't know me quite as well just yet. And
yeah,
so we definitely are looking for funding, and we'll take anything from a quarter to a quarter of a million. Whatever you can give, we are so appreciative. I make sure I'm personally writing all of our thank you cards right now so that people know I'm, in
yeah.
it.
Who
And
you are, right?
yes, and
Yeah.
that yeah, I'm involved, and I
And that it's
know,
going. I think that it's
and
going to that people know that it's
yes,
still a viable organization. Yes, yeah,
right,
that's very important. Yeah, yeah, not just
yeah.
to the people coming in for help, but everywhere. So let's give them information on how to donate.
Okay, so the best way to donate is to go to our website. It's we care. Oh, sorry, that's our email address. It's losososcares.com. We're still a .com for now. But we are a nonprofit, 501(c)(3), and you can go through our website. You can find our PayPal and our Venmo, and you can donate through there. You can also mail a check to us if that's your preference, um, and that is Los Osos Cares, PO Box 6602 in Los Osos, California, and the zip code is 93412. Um, and I encourage everyone to follow us on social media. We're Los Osos Cares on Instagram and on Facebook. And I just started a Threads account for us too.
Oh,
Through it's called Threads
friends.
through Meta Instagram.
Okay,
Um,
I never heard of
so
that, but that's news to me.
yeah, I'm really enjoying Threads. I think it's a great alternative to
You'll have to tell me more about that. No, it's good.
that other
Yeah, yeah.
dirty website. So
Birdie whips. Yeah, I don't do that one either. Yeah, good.
so
Good.
yeah, anybody who's interested in helping, we would love to have more volunteers, more donors, more engagement from across the country and around the world. That would be
Yes,
wonderful.
yes. Right, right.
Yeah.
And I encourage people, if you are interested from around the country or around the world, to go on the website and you'll find a place with a contact thingy and you can put your name and what have you in case you have some suggestions, which would be
Yes.
helpful, or you want some information, which may even help you in
Yeah.
an organization you might be trying to run or starting in another part. Not everything from California is, you know, we're trying to share is what I'm trying to say here.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
it's worthwhile for us to share. My organization, Yes We Can Peacebuilders, does something called the Nonviolent Cities Project, and I meet once a month with a variety of people from across the country that are trying to help keep violence down in their communities because in case people don't know this, poverty is a form of violence. And a
It
lot of
is.
people don't think that's true, but it absolutely is. So we work very hard together, and these are people that are in cities that are a lot larger than Morro Bay or Los Osos. Matter of fact, I think I'm the smallest one. This is the smallest one, Nonviolent
Yeah.
Cities Project. It used to be just Morro Bay. I have now included Los Osos and Cayucas, and we're calling it the Estero Bay Nonviolent Cities Project. And
Wonderful.
so we work on a lot of aspects that have to do with domestic violence, etc. What's going on? A lot of places in the country have murders a minute. We don't, thank God, we don't have something
Oh,
like that. But then we have
yeah.
to look at our youth and how many are joining gangs and things of this kind of thing. And it's happening everywhere. We're all pretty much struggling with the same problems in this country. And so it's
Yeah.
good to hear that we have places like Los Osos Cares that is really, getting in there and trying to solve some of the things that are going on. Um,
Yeah.
Best we can do. We got to say thank you. This is great. So, is there
Yeah,
anything else
thank
you want to
you.
say before we end? We're going to end
I
this.
just want to thank you so much, Roseanne, for your time and for putting our name out there. I'm really grateful for it. I believe in what we do.
Yeah. Oh, definitely. Yeah. No. Yeah. It's what kind of human beings are if we can't help one another? We are each other's. My friend says we're each other's brothers and sisters. I always say, well, maybe cousins. No, maybe not brothers, cousins. But that's, in my opinion, that's what peace building is about. So I think it's very important. So thank you for being on, and we will send this out to everybody, and you will have opportunity to also put it on your website,
Yeah,
etc. And it should be
wonderful.
good. I hope we get a lot of people listening and looking at it. So
Me
here we go.
too.
We have gone almost an hour, which is good. And so I'm going to end the recording now. And thank you,
Okay.
everybody. Thank you for everybody who's listening and watching. And
Thank
thank you,
you.
Angela. We'll see you.